The mirror shattered at midnight, its jagged pieces catching the moonlight like 1,000 accusing eyes. Ethan stumbled back, heart pounding, as the reflection he'd trusted his whole life betrayed him. He wasn't just the adopted kid in the Warwick family, was the secret Lucas Warwick had been hiding from his own blood. 17 years ago, Ethan had been left at a fire station in Portland, Oregon, a shivering newborn wrapped in a tattered blanket. The Warwicks, a wealthy couple with a sprawling estate and a legacy of philanthropy, adopted him when he was 3, raising him alongside their biological son, Lucas. Ethan grew up in their shadow, grateful but never quite belonging, his dark curls and quiet demeanor a stark contrast to Lucas's golden confidence. Lucas, the heir, was everything Ethan was: charismatic, athletic, the golden boy of Lakewood High. But in the stolen moments of last summer, under the oak tree by the lake, Lucas had looked at Ethan with something more than brotherly affection. "I'm not supposed to feel this way," Lucas had whispered, his breath warm against Ethan's ear. They'd been 17 then, sneaking out to the lake at night, the water reflecting stars and secrets. Ethan hadn't known what to say, only that his heart raced when Lucas's hand brushed his. It was wrong, wasn't it? They were brothers, at least on paper. But the way Lucas's blue eyes held his, fierce and unguarded, made Ethan question everything. They kept it hidden, their stolen kisses confined to shadows. Lucas swore they'd figure it out after graduation, when they could leave the Warwick mansion and its suffocating expectations. Ethan believed him because he had told cause loving Lucas was the only thing that made sense in a world that never felt like his. But secrets have a way of unraveling, and the Warwick's pristine world was about to crack. It started with the mirror in the guest room, an antique with gilded edges that Mrs. Warwick cherished. Ethan had been helping her rearrange furniture when he caught his reflection, thought he did. For a split second, he saw Lucas's face staring back, not his own. He blinked, heart lurching, but the image was gone. "You okay, sweetie?" Mrs. Warwick asked, her voice warm but laced with the pity Ethan hated. He nodded, brushing it off, but the moment clung to him like damp clothes. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He crept downstairs, drawn to the mirror again. The house was silent, the kind of silence that amplifies every creak. He stood before the glass, staring into his own brown eyes, searching for answers. Then it happened again: Lucas's face, unmistakable, superimposed over his own. Ethan's breath caught. He reached out, fingers trembling, and the mirror shattered under his touch, as if it couldn't bear the weight of the truth. The sound woke the house. Lucas was the first to find him, his bare feet silent on the hardwood. "Ethan, what the hell?" he hissed, his eyes wide with panic. But before Ethan could explain, Mr. Warwick stormed in, his face a mask of fury. "Do you know how much that was worth?" he bellowed, not waiting for an answer. Mrs. Warwick followed, her hands wringing, her gaze darting between Ethan and the broken glass. "I didn't mean to," Ethan stammered, but the words felt hollow. Lucas stepped closer, his shoulder brushing Ethan's, a silent promise of protection. But Mr. Warwick's eyes narrowed, catching the gesture. "You too," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Have been acting strange lately." Ethan's stomach twisted. He'd always known the Warwicks were traditional, their wealth built on old money and older values. They attended church every Sunday, donated to conservative causes, and expected Lucas to marry a nice girl from their social circle. Ethan had heard the whispers about people like that, the disdain in Mr. Warwick's voice when he spoke of anyone who deviated from his rigid worldview. If they knew about him and Lucas, Ethan couldn't finish the thought. Lucas grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the stairs. "Let's go," he muttered. But Mrs. Warwick's voice stopped them cold. "Ethan, stay. We need to talk about this." Her tone was gentle, but there was something in her eyes, fear. Maybe. Or suspicion. Ethan glanced at Lucas, whose jaw was tight, his hands curled into fists. "I'll handle it," Ethan whispered, though his heart screamed otherwise. Lucas hesitated, then nodded, disappearing upstairs. Ethan faced Mrs. Warwick alone, the broken mirror at his feet like a metaphor for their fragile family. "Sweetie," she began, sitting on the edge of a velvet chair. "You've been distant. Is something wrong?" Her kindness was a knife, cutting deeper because Ethan knew she wouldn't understand. He wanted to tell her everything about Lucas, about the mirror, about the gnawing feeling that he didn't belong here. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he shook his head, muttering, "I'm just tired." She didn't believe him. He could see it in the way her lips pressed together, the way her fingers twisted her pearl necklace. "You're part of this family, Ethan," she said, but the words felt like a script, rehearsed and empty. He nodded, escaping to his room, where Lucas was waiting, sitting on the bed with his head in his hands. "We can't keep doing this," Lucas said, his voice breaking. "They're going to find out." Ethan sank beside him, their knees touching. "What did I see in that mirror? Lucas, why did it show your face?" Lucas looked up, his eyes haunted. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not good." They sat in silence, the weight of their secret pressing down. Ethan didn't know what the mirror meant, but he knew one thing: the truth was coming, and it would tear their world apart. The next morning, the Warwick mansion buzzed with tension, the kind that hums beneath polished surfaces. Ethan avoided the dining room, where Mr. Warwick's voice carried, sharp and commanding, discussing repairs for the mirror. Lucas caught Ethan in the hallway, his hand grazing Ethan's wrist, a fleeting touch that burned. "Meet me at the lake tonight," he whispered, his blue eyes fierce with something Ethan couldn't name: fear, maybe, or desperation. Ethan nodded, but dread coiled in his chest. The mirror's strange reflection haunted him, a puzzle with no edges. He spent the day in the library, a cavernous room lined with leather-bound books, searching for answers. The Warwicks had a collection of family records, meticulously cataloged, and Ethan pored over them, looking for anything about his adoption. He found nothing but a single document, a faded adoption certificate with his name and a date. No mention of his birth parents. At school, Lakewood High was a different kind of battlefield. Lucas was the star quarterback, surrounded by friends who worshipped him, while Ethan was the quiet kid who sketched in the margins of his notebooks. They kept their distance in public. But today, Lucas's gaze lingered too long across the cafeteria. A cheerleader named Claire noticed, her eyes narrowing. What's with you and your brother? She asked Ethan later, her tone teasing but sharp. He's not my brother. Ethan snapped, then regretted it. Claire's eyebrows shot up, and she sauntered away, whispering to her friends. Ethan's pulse raced. He'd slipped. And in a town like Lakewood, where gossip spread like wildfire. That was dangerous. That night, under the oak tree by the lake, Lucas was already waiting, his silhouette stark against the water. We need to be careful, he said, pulling Ethan close. Dad's been asking questions. He saw us last night. The way I looked at you. Ethan's throat tightened. What do we do? Lucas's hands cupped Ethan's face, his touch both tender and urgent. We run. After graduation, we leave. Start over somewhere they can't find us. The idea was a lifeline, but it felt like a dream too fragile to hold. Ethan wanted to believe in it. In Lucas. In them. But the mirror's image flashed in his mind. Lucas's face where it should have been. What if there's something we don't know? He asked. About me. About us. Lucas frowned, pulling back. What are you talking about? The mirror, Ethan said, voice low. It showed you. Not me. Like we're connected somehow. Lucas laughed, but it was hollow. It's just a mirror. Ethan, you're freaking out over nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Ethan felt it in his bones, a truth scratching at the edges of his mind. They kissed under the stars, but the moment was tainted, the air heavy with unspoken fears. The next day, Ethan skipped school, driven by a need to understand. He biked to the Portland fire station where he'd been abandoned, a squat brick building on the edge of town. The fire chief, a grizzled man named Tom, remembered him. You were a tiny thing, Tom said, leaning back in his chair. No note. No name. Just a blanket with a weird symbol stitched into Ida's circle with a cross. Ethan's heart stopped. He knew that symbol. It was on a locket Mrs. Warwick wore, a family heirloom she never took off. Did you tell the Warwicks about it? He asked. Tom nodded. Yeah. They saw it when they adopted you. Said it was just a coincidence. Coincidence. The word tasted like a lie. Ethan thanked Tom and left, his mind racing. Back at the mansion, he searched for the locket, slipping into Mrs. Warwick's room while she was at a charity event. He found it in her jewelry box, the silver gleaming, the circle and cross symbol unmistakable. His hands shook as he held it, a piece of his past that didn't belong in this house. When Lucas got home, Ethan showed him the locket. This was with me when I was abandoned, he said. Your mom has it. Why? Lucas's face paled. She never told me. He reached for the locket, but Ethan pulled it back. Protective. We need to ask her, Lucas said, but his voice wavered. They confronted Mrs. Warwick that evening in the living room, the locket dangling from Ethan's hand. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, Ethan saw fear in her composed face. Where did you get that? She asked, her voice tight. It was mine, Ethan said. From the fire station. Why do you have it? She hesitated, then sighed. sinking onto the couch. It's complicated. Your adoption wasn't as simple as we told you. Lucas stepped forward, his voice sharp. What does that mean, Mom? Mrs. Warwick looked between them, her hands trembling. There are things you don't understand. Things we did to protect you both. Ethan's chest tightened. Protect them from what? The room felt too small, the air too thick. He glanced at Lucas, whose face was a storm of confusion and anger. The locket burned in Ethan's hand, a key to a truth he wasn't sure he wanted to face. Mrs. Warwick's words hung in the air, a confession that wasn't a confession. Ethan's grip on the locket tightened, its edges digging into his palm. Lucas stood frozen, his eyes locked on his mother, waiting for an explanation that didn't come. Protect us from what? Ethan demanded, his voice louder than he intended. The living room, with its crystal chandelier and velvet drapes, felt like a stage for a play he hadn't rehearsed. Mrs. Warwick stood, smoothing her dress, her composure slipping like a mask. Not here, she said, glancing at the doorway. Your father can't know we're talking about this. Lucas's jaw clenched. Dad's at a board meeting. Tell us now. She hesitated, then led them to the study, a room lined with oak shelves and secrets. She locked the door behind them, her hands unsteady. Ethan, she began, her voice soft but heavy. When we adopted you, we didn't just find you by chance. Your birth mother, she came to us. Ethan's breath caught. Who was she? Mrs. Warwick's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Her name was Lila. She was young, scared, and she worked for us as a maid. Lucas frowned. You never mentioned a maid named Lila. She left before you were old enough to remember. Mrs. Warwick said. She was pregnant, alone, and desperate. She begged us to take her child you, Ethan, because she couldn't keep you safe. Safe from what? Ethan's voice cracked, the locket burning in his hand. Mrs. Warwick looked away, her fingers twisting her wedding ring. Your father, he has enemies. People who'd use anything or innuendo hurt him. Lila was caught in that world. She didn't tell us everything, but she said you'd be in danger if you stayed with her. Ethan's mind reeled. Enemies. Danger. The Warwicks were rich, powerful, but this sounded like something out of a movie, not his life. Lucas stepped closer, his shoulder brushing Ethan's, grounding him. Why the locket? Lucas asked. Why keep it hidden? Mrs. Warwick's gaze dropped to the locket, and for a moment, she looked older, worn. It was hers. She said it was a family heirloom, something to keep you safe. I kept it to remember her, to honor her choice. Ethan didn't buy it. There was too much she wasn't saying. Her words polished, but incomplete. What about the mirror? He pressed. I saw Lucas's face in it, not mine. Why? Mrs. Warwick's face paled. The mirror. That's impossible. But her voice shook, and Ethan knew she was lying. Mom. Stop. Lucas snapped. You're hiding something. We deserve the truth. She sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. I can't, she whispered. Not yet. It's too dangerous. Ethan's patience snapped. Dangerous for who? Me. Lucas. Or your perfect family image. Her head jerked up, eyes wide with hurt. You are our family. Ethan. Don't ever think otherwise. But he did. He always had. The adoption. The wealth. The way Mr. Warwick's eyes lingered on him with cold appraisal. It all screamed outsider. And now, with Lucas's hand grazing his, the secret of their love felt like a bomb waiting to detonate. They left the study, Mrs. Warwick's pleas fading behind them. In the hallway, Lucas grabbed Ethan's arm. We're not done, he said, his voice low. We'll find out what she's hiding. Ethan nodded, but his heart was a storm. That night, he couldn't sleep, the locket heavy on his nightstand. He slipped out of bed and crept to the attic, where the Warwicks stored old furniture in. He hoped. Answers. The air was thick with dust, the floorboards creaking under his weight. He found a trunk labeled Lila, hidden behind a stack of crates. Inside were letters, photographs, and a journal, all in a woman's looping handwriting. Ethan's hands trembled as he opened the journal. The first page dated 17 years ago. I can't keep him. It read. They'll find him. The Warwicks promised to protect him. But I don't trust them. Not after what I saw. What she saw. The words chilled Ethan. He flipped through the pages, finding mentions of a deal with Mr. Warwick. Something about a rival family. And a cryptic note. The mirror knows. It always knows. Ethan's pulse raced. He stuffed the journal under his shirt and slipped back to his room. Heart pounding. The mirror again. It wasn't just a fluke, it was tied to his past. To Lila. To everything. The next morning, Lucas found him in the garden. The journal open in Ethan's lap. You didn't sleep, Lucas said, sitting beside him. Ethan handed him the journal. Read this. Your mom's lying. There's something about a mirror, and it's connected to me. Lucas's eyes scanned the pages, his face darkening. This doesn't make sense. A rival family. My dad's not a mobster. Ethan. Maybe he's not what you think, Ethan said, his voice low. We need to find that mirror's history. Where it came from. Why it matters. Lucas nodded, but his eyes were distant. If we do this, there's no going back. Whatever we find, it could change everything. Ethan took his hand, their fingers intertwining. I'm ready. But he wasn't. Not for what came next. Ethan and Lucas became detectives in their own home, sneaking through shadows to uncover a truth that felt increasingly dangerous. The journal mentioned a mirror, but the one Ethan shattered was gone, replaced by a new one in the guest room, its surface cold and unyielding. They needed answers. And the Warwick mansion, with its endless rooms and secrets, was their only lead. Lucas suggested the family's private office, a room off limits to everyone but Mr. Warwick. He keeps records of everything, Lucas said, his voice hushed as they stood outside the locked door. Ethan hesitated, the journal tucked under his arm. Lila's words echoing, the mirror knows. Using a hairpin for Mrs. Warwick's vanity, Lucas picked the lock, his hands steady despite the risk. Inside, the office was a shrine to power mahogany desk, leather chairs, and shelves stuffed with files. They split up, Ethan tackling the desk drawers while Lucas scanned the shelves. Ethan found a folder labeled Acquisitions, stuffed with receipts for art, furniture, and a mirror. It was purchased from an estate sale in Boston, described as 17th century Venetian, rumored to reveal hidden truths. Ethan's skin prickled. Hidden truths. Like his reflection morphing into Lucas's face. "Lucas, look at this," he whispered, holding up the receipt. But Lucas was frozen, staring at a photograph he'd pulled from a file. It was Lila, younger, smiling, her arm around a man who looked eerily like Mr. Warwick but younger, rougher, with a scar across his cheek. "This can't be Dad," Lucas said, his voice shaking. "But it's dated the year you were born." Ethan's stomach dropped. Who is he? Lucas flipped the photo over. Written in faded ink, Lila and Marcus. 2008. "Marcus," Ethan repeated, the name heavy. "Your dad's name is Richard." Lucas's eyes met his, wide with realization. What if he's not my dad? The room spun. Ethan grabbed the desk for balance, the journal slipping to the floor. Lila's words flashed in his mind. They'll find him. Was Marcus the danger she feared? And why did the Warwicks have his photo? They didn't have time to process it. Footsteps echoed in the hall. "Mr. Warwick. Home early." Lucas shoved the photo into his pocket, and they slipped out through a side door, hearts pounding. Outside, the night air was sharp, the lake glittering under the moon. "We need to find Marcus," Ethan said, his voice urgent. "He's the key." Lucas nodded, but his face was pale. "If he's not my dad, then who are we to each other?" The question hung between them, heavy and unanswered. Ethan wanted to reach for Lucas, to anchor himself in the one thing he trusted. But fear held him back. Their love, already fragile, now felt like a house of cards in a storm. The next day, they skipped school again, driving to Portland's public library to search for Marcus. The librarian, a kind woman with gray curls, helped them access old newspapers. They found an article from 2008, Local Man. Marcus Reed disappears after business dispute with Warwick Enterprises. The article mentioned a rivalry, a failed deal, and whispers of sabotage. Marcus was described as volatile, dangerous. Ethan's hands shook as he read. "This is why Lila hid me. She was scared of him." Lucas's face was grim. "And our parents knew him. They're part of this." They dug deeper, finding a blog post from a conspiracy theorist claiming Marcus had been obsessed with an antique mirror, believing it could show the truth of the soul. Ethan's blood ran cold. The mirror wasn't just a family heirloom, it was a relic tied to Marcus, to Lila, to him. Back at the mansion, they confronted Mrs. Warwick again, this time with the photo and the article. She was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, her hands unsteady when she saw what they held. "Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Who's Marcus Reed? Lucas demanded. Mrs. Warwick set the knife down, her face ashen. He was a mistake. Someone we trusted. A long time ago. Ethan stepped forward, the locket in his hand. Was he my father? Her silence was answer enough. She sank into a chair, tears spilling. Lila loved him, but he was dangerous. When she got pregnant, she begged us to take you, to keep you away from him. We didn't know about the mirror until later. What's the mirror? Ethan pressed, his voice breaking. It's old. Cursed. Some say. Marcus believed it could reveal secrets. Things people hide, even from themselves. When we adopted you, it came with the estate we bought. I thought it was just a story. Lucas's voice was cold, but it showed Ethan my face. Why? Mrs. Warwick looked away, her hands trembling. I don't know. But you need to stop digging. For your own safety. Ethan's heart pounded. Safety. The word felt like a cage. He glanced at Lucas, whose eyes burned with determination. They weren't stopping, not now. Not ever. The truth was a splinter, lodged deep in Ethan's chest. Impossible to ignore. Marcus Reed. A man tied to his past, to the mirror, to the Warwick secrets, was out there or had been. Ethan and Lucas couldn't stop now. Not when every answer led to more questions. They found a new lead in Lila's journal, a cryptic note about a cabin in the Oregon woods, where Marcus used to meet her. If he's still alive, he might be there, Ethan said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. Lucas agreed, his jaw set, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. They borrowed Mrs. Warwick's car, claiming a school project, and drove into the forest, the road narrowing as pines loomed overhead. The cabin was a dilapidated shack, its windows boarded, the air thick with the scent of damp wood. Inside, they found traces of Lithia's sleeping bag, empty cans, and a photograph pinned to the wall, Lila, holding a newborn Ethan, her face etched with fear. He was here, Lucas whispered, his voice tight. Ethan's eyes caught something Elsia's sketch of the mirror, taped to a table. With notes scrawled in frantic handwriting, it seized the bond. It seized the truth. Below it, a name, Ethan. A creak broke the silence. Ethan spun, heart racing, as a shadow moved in the doorway. A man stepped forward, older, weathered, with a scar across his cheek. Marcus. You shouldn't be here, Marcus said, his voice low, gravelly. His eyes locked on Ethan, then flicked to Lucas, narrowing. You're Warwick's boy. Lucas stepped in front of Ethan, protective. Who are you to him? He demanded, nodding at Ethan. Marcus's laugh was bitter. I'm his father. And you re the reason he's in danger. Ethan's world tilted. You're lying, he said, but his voice wavered. The locket in his pocket felt like a stone, anchoring him to a past he didn't understand. I loved Lila, Marcus said, stepping closer. But the Warwicks took everything her. You. My life. They hid you to keep you from me. But the mirror, it doesn't lie. What does it show? Ethan asked, his throat dry. Marcus's eyes gleamed, almost manic. It shows what's bound. You and him. He nodded at Lucas. You're tied. More than you know. The mirror sees it's your souls. Your secrets. Lucas's hand found Ethan's, their fingers lacing together. We're not afraid of you, Lucas said, but his voice shook. Marcus smirked. You should be. The Warwicks aren't what they seem. They've been lying to you both. Before Ethan could ask more, headlights flashed outside. A car door slammed, and Mr. Warwick's voice boomed. Ethan. Lucas. Get out here. Panic surged. Marcus grabbed Ethan's arm, his grip bruising. Don't trust them, he hissed. They'll destroy you to keep their secrets. Lucas pulled Ethan free, shoving Marcus back. They ran, bursting out of the cabin as Mr. Warwick approached, his face a mask of fury. What the hell are you doing here? He roared. We know about Marcus, Lucas said, standing tall. And Lila. And the mirror. Mr. Warwick's eyes darkened. Get in the car. Now. The drive back was silent, the air thick with unspoken accusations. At the mansion, Mr. Warwick locked them in the study, his voice cold. You've gone too far. This ends tonight. Ethan's heart pounded. What are you hiding? He demanded. Mr. Warwick's gaze softened. Just for a moment. We were protecting you. Both of you. Marcus is dangerous. He's been watching this family for years, waiting for a chance to hurt us. Then why hide my mother's locket? Ethan shot back. Why lie about my past? Mr. Warwick sighed, rubbing his temples. Because your mother wasn't just a maid. She was my sister. The room spun. Ethan grabbed Lucas's arm, steadying himself. Your sister? He whispered. Then you're my nephew. Mr. Warwick said, his voice heavy. And Lucas's cousin. Lucas's face drained of color. No, he said, shaking his head. That's not possible. Ethan's mind raced. Lila's journal flashing in his memory. They'll find him. The mirror's reflection. The bond Marcus spoke of. It all pointed to a truth too big, too painful to grasp. We didn't want you to know, Mr. Warwick said. It was safer this way. But you've stirred up things that can't be undone. Ethan looked at Lucas, their hands still clasped, their love now tangled in a web of blood and lies. The mirror had shown them the truth not just of their hearts, but of their past. And it was only the beginning. Cousins. The word was a blade, slicing through Ethan's heart. He stood in the study, Lucas's hand still in his. But the warmth of their touch felt wrong now, tainted by Mr. Warwick's revelation. Lucas's face was a mask of shock, his blue eyes searching Ethan's for something denial. Hope. Anything to undo the truth. We're done here, Mr. Warwick said, his voice final. You'll stay away from each other. For your own good. Ethan's anger flared. You don't get to decide that. He snapped. You lied to us. To me. My whole life. Mr. Warwick's jaw tightened. I protected you. Marcus would have taken you. Used you to get to me. He's dangerous. Ethan. More dangerous than you. Lucas shot back. His voice raw. You let us grow up thinking we were brothers. Then cousins. And you never said a word. Why? Mr. Warwick looked away. His silence deafening. Mrs. Warwick appeared in the doorway. Her face pale. Richard. Stop. She said softly. They deserve the whole truth. Ethan's pulse raced. There's more. Mrs. Warwick nodded. Tears in her eyes. Lila wasn't just Richard's sister. She was involved with Marcus in a way we didn't understand until it was too late. The mirror was his obsession. He believed it could show him his enemies, his allies, his blood. Ethan's mind flashed to the cabin. Marcus's manic eyes. He said it showed our bond. He said, glancing at Lucas. What does that mean? Mrs. Warwick hesitated, then spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. The mirror is old, tied to stories of bloodlines and fate. Marcus thought it could reveal his son his true heir. When it showed Lucas's face in your reflection. Ethan. It meant, you're not just cousins. Lucas's hand tightened around Ethan's. What are you saying? Mrs. Warwick's voice broke. You might be brothers. Half-brothers. Marcus, he was with Lila. But there were rumors he'd been with someone else in the family. Someone close. Ethan's world shattered again. Brothers. The word was heavier than cousins. A weight that crushed the love he'd clung to. He pulled his hand from Lucas's. The loss of contact like a physical blow. Lucas's eyes were wide. Desperate. No. He whispered. It's not true. But Ethan saw the doubt in his face. The same doubt tearing him apart. The mirror. The locket. Lila's journal, it all pointed to a truth they couldn't escape. Mr. Warwick stepped forward. His voice softer now. We didn't know for sure. When Lila left you, Ethan, she begged us to keep you safe from Marcus. We adopted you to protect you. To give you a life he couldn't. But the mirror, it's complicated things. Complicated. Ethan laughed. Bitter and broken. You've destroyed us. He stormed out. Lucas calling after him. But Ethan couldn't stop. He ran to the lake. The place where their love had bloomed. Now tainted by secrets. The water was still. Reflecting the stars. Mocking him with its calm. Lucas caught up. Breathless. Ethan. Please. We can figure this out. Figure what out? Ethan shouted. Tears streaming. That we're brothers. That everything we felt was wrong. Lucas grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to meet his eyes. I don't care what they say. I love you. That's the truth. Ethan's heart ached, torn between love and shame. What if it's true? Lucas. What if we're not? Lucas said fiercely. The mirror's a lie. Marcus is a lie. We'll prove it. They returned to the mansion, determined to find proof. In the attic, they dug through more of Lila's things, finding a letter addressed to Ethan. Never sent. My son. It read. Marcus isn't your father. I lied to protect you. Your real father is dead, killed by Marcus's jealousy. The mirror will show you the truth. But don't trust it. It twists what you see. Ethan's hands shook as he read. She lied about Marcus. Lucas nodded, hope flickering in his eyes. If he's not your father, we're not brothers. Just cousins. Maybe. Or nothing at all. The relief was fleeting. If Lila lied, what else was false? They needed the mirror of the original, not the replacement. Mrs. Warwick admitted it was stored in the basement, locked away after it shattered. They found it. Its gilded frame cracked, but intact. Its surface cloudy but whole. Ethan stood before it, Lucas at his side. Show me, Ethan whispered, staring into the glass. His reflection wavered, then shifted not to Lucas's face, but to Lila's, her eyes pleading. Lucas gasped. What does it mean? Ethan's voice was steady, resolute. It means we find the truth. No matter what. They were running out of time. Marcus was still out there, and the Warwick's lies were unraveling. Ethan and Lucas were bound, not just by love, but by a past that refused to stay buried. The mirror's reflection of Lila haunted Ethan, her eyes a silent plea from the past. He and Lucas stood in the basement, the air cold and musty, the mirror's frame casting jagged shadows. They were close to the truth, but it felt like chasing a ghost. We need to find Marcus again, Lucas said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. He knows more than he's saying. Ethan nodded, clutching Lila's letter. If Marcus wasn't his father, who was? And why did the mirror show Lucas? Then Lila. The questions burned, but the answers were out there, in the woods, with a man who'd already proven he was dangerous. They planned to return to the cabin, but Mr. Warwick was watching them now, his presence suffocating. He'd grounded them, citing reckless behavior. But Ethan knew it was about control. Mrs. Warwick was no better, her gentle smiles replaced by anxious glances. The mansion felt like a prison, their love a crime. At school, the rumors had spread. Claire, the cheerleader, had told everyone Ethan and Lucas were too close. Whispers followed them in the halls, eyes judging, dissecting. Ethan ignored them, but Lucas's shoulders tensed, his confidence crumbling. They don't know anything, he muttered, but Ethan saw the hurt in his eyes. That night, they snuck out, biking through the dark to the cabin. The forest was alive with sound owls, rustling leaves, their own ragged breaths. The cabin was empty, but signs of Marcus were everywhere, fresh footprints, a half-eaten meal, a new sketch of the mirror. He's close, Ethan whispered, his heart pounding. Lucas nodded, pulling him into the shadows. We wait. Hours passed, the cold seeping into their bones. Just as dawn broke, Marcus appeared, his scars stark in the gray light. He froze when he saw them, his eyes narrowing. You don't give up, do you? Tell us the truth, Ethan said, stepping forward. Lila's letter said you're not my father. Who is? Marcus's face twisted, a mix of anger and pain. Lila lied to everyone. She was good at that. Your father was Richard Warwick. Ethan's knees buckled. Lucas caught him, his own face pale. That's impossible, Lucas said. My dad would have told me. Marcus laughed. Bitter. Your dad. Richard played us all. He was with Lila. Behind my back. When she got pregnant, he forced her to give you up. Ethan said it would ruin his perfect life. Ethan's mind reeled. Mr. Warwick, his uncle. His adoptive father was his biological father. The betrayal cut deep. A wound that bled into everything he'd known. Why the mirror? Lucas demanded, his voice shaking. Marcus's eyes gleamed. It shows what's true. What's hidden? Richard tried to destroy it when he found out it showed Lila's face to me. Years ago. It showed you too because you're his sons, both of you. Bound by blood. By love. By fate. Ethan's heart stopped. Sons. Brothers. The word was a death knell. Lucas's hand slipped from his. The distance between them a chasm. You're lying, Lucas said. But his voice was weak. Broken. Marcus shrugged. Believe what you want. The mirror doesn't lie. They left the cabin. The truth a weight they couldn't carry. Back at the mansion, they confronted Mr. Warwick. The letter and Marcus's words their only weapons. He was in his office. Papers strewn across his desk. His face haggard. Is it true? Ethan asked, his voice raw. Are you my father? Mr. Warwick's eyes widened, then closed, as if he could shut out the question. I wanted to protect you, he said finally. Lila was my sister. Yes. But we made a mistake. When she got pregnant, I couldn't claim you. Not with my life. My family. Lucas's voice was ice. So you lied. To Mom. To me. To Ethan. You let us think we were brothers. Then cousins. And now, this. Mr. Warwick's shoulders sagged. I thought it was better this way. Marcus was a threat. He still is. Ethan's tears fell. Hot and angry. You didn't protect me. You broke me. He ran. The mansion blurring around him. Lucas followed, calling his name. But Ethan couldn't face him. Not now. Not when their love was poisoned by blood. The lake was his refuge. Its still water a mirror of his own. He sank to his knees, sobbing, as Lucas caught up. We're not brothers, Lucas said, kneeling beside him. I don't care what they say. I love you, Ethan. That's all that matters. But it wasn't. Not anymore. The truth was a wall between them, and Ethan didn't know how to tear it down. The lake reflected the dawn, a cruel mirror of Ethan's shattered world. He and Lucas sat in silence, the weight of their shared blood crushing the love they'd fought for. Ethan wanted to believe Lucas, to cling to his defiance. But the truth was a tide pulling them under. We can't stay here, Lucas said finally, his voice hoarse. Not with them. Not after this. Ethan nodded, but his heart was heavy. Running meant leaving everything a mansion. The Warwicks. The only family he'd known. But staying meant living a lie. Their love buried under shame and secrets. They returned to the mansion. determined to face the Warwicks one last time. Mrs. Warwick was in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying. Mr. Warwick stood by the window, his back to them, as if he could avoid their pain. "We're leaving," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "You can't stop us." Mrs. Warwick's hand flew to her mouth, a sob escaping. "Please, Ethan. You're our son." "No," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "You raised me, but you lied to me. You let me love him, knowing it would destroy us." Mr. Warwick turned, his face etched with regret. "I thought I was protecting you. Both of you. Marcus is still out there, and he won't stop." "Then we'll face him," Lucas said, stepping forward. Together. They packed in silence, taking only what they needed: clothes, Lila's journal, the locket. The mirror stayed behind, its truth too heavy to carry. As they slipped out the back door, the mansion loomed behind them, a monument to lies. They drove to Portland, to a shelter Ethan had found online, a place for kids like them lost, searching, rejected. The city was alive, its pulse a stark contrast to the suffocating quiet of Lakewood. At the shelter, a counselor named Mia listened to their story, her eyes kind but unsurprised. "You're not alone," she said. "Love doesn't always fit the world's rules, but it's still love." Ethan and Lucas stayed, sharing a small room, their hands no longer touching but their hearts still bound. They searched for answers, digging into Lila's past, Marcus's threats, the mirror's mysteries. A DNA test, arranged by Mia, confirmed the truth: they were half-brothers, sharing Mr. Warwick as their father. The revelation was a final blow, but it also set them free. Lucas took Ethan's hand, his eyes fierce. "I don't care," he said. "I love you, not as a brother, but as you. We'll figure out what that means." Ethan nodded, tears falling. Their love was complicated, messy, but it was theirs. They enrolled in community college, working part-time, building a life from the ashes of their past. Marcus remained a shadow, his presence a distant threat. But Ethan and Lucas were stronger now, their bond forged in truth. One night, under Portland's neon lights, Ethan pulled out the locket, its symbol gleaming. "This is us," he said, handing it to Lucas. "Not the mirror, not the lies, just us." Lucas smiled, the first real smile in weeks. "Just us," he echoed, slipping the locket into his pocket. They walked into the night, hand in hand, not as brothers or cousins, but as two souls who'd chosen each other. The world might judge them, but they'd found their truth not in a mirror, but in each other. And that was enough.